Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. I don't know who's up this early. I know some people, usually I'm up this early getting ready to drop my daughter off at daycare. But um, whoever's up early, whoever's listening, I hate this mask. Like, I literally hate wearing masks. Look, I can't even get it right. But it is for our safety. I had to keep it on the whole time, including when I was asleep, and I still can't fix it, but whatever. Mm. Anywho, how's everybody doing this morning? I am feeling a little better. I'm very, very grateful that I am able to feel better. I hate the hospital just like everybody else. I did not want to come in. Like, it took everything. Actually, no, it took me being really weak and not being able to like walk from here to the door for me to say, you know what, enough, I'm going to go in. But I really wanted to just have a story time and share my experience, not only for other warriors such as myself, anybody dealing with a chronic illness, but also for healthcare workers, just to kind of maybe learn from it, or I'm just hoping my story is able to help someone. So, anybody that I know hates going to the hospital. It's like one of the things that we absolutely hate doing, because we feel like we are stigmatized, and not only are we stigmatized, we feel like once we go into the hospital, we get stuck. We can't come out. Like, we literally get stuck. Sorry. Okay, sorry. I'm sorry, y'all. I just wanted to make sure y'all can hear me. So, I have been feeling really, really bad. I have had a lot of pain. I had been weak. I was short of breath. It was just like so much going on with me, where I knew that it was an issue, but I was trying everything that I can at home to avoid coming into the hospital. So on Thursday, I was at work, and I just wanted to make it through the day because I'm usually off on Fridays. So Thursday, I was at work, but I just felt horrible. So Friday morning, I called what we call the day hospital, which is kind of like a sickle cell treatment center where you could go in for pain medication or treatment, or if you need a transfusion or whatever the case is, you're able to go in for the day and then you can leave at night to go home. So on that Friday, I went into the day hospital, and they treated me with pain medication. And at the time, I felt better. I was like, okay, well, I feel better. The pain has gone away, so I feel great. So I went home, and literally I went to bed. I was feeling great. The next thing I know, the like overnight, Saturday morning, pain comes back. Not only does the pain comes back, it comes back with really, really bad fatigue. Like, I couldn't, like, if I'm like, as I'm talking now, I would have been out of breath. I would have been breathing all heavy. If I was to walk from, my bed to the bathroom, it was a problem. So I knew something else was wrong. I knew that it just wasn't a pain episode. I knew something had to be going on inside. So I call myself logging into work because I absolutely hate missing work. Like, I just want to be as normal as possible. Like I just want to go to work. I don't want to miss work. I don't want to have to go into the hospital and miss my day-to-day life. Like I just want it to be just like everybody else. You just want to be normal. You just want to live your life as normal as you can. So Saturday morning, I came into the emergency room. And when I got to the emergency room, it was like the nurse, because they do the screening before you can go in. So the nurse I was doing the screening, she actually met me in the car, and I was like, "Oh, this is different." So she's like, "What brings you in today?" So I was like, "I think I'm having a sickle cell crisis. I'm not really sure, what's going on." And she was like, "Well, perfect timing. There's nobody here." And I was like, "Huh? Really? Nobody's here?" And lo and behold, I walked in. It was nobody in the waiting room. Like I literally went from checking in to going straight to triage, and triage saying, "I'm gonna just take you to get your IV access," to the people doing the IV saying, "Well, instead of you sitting in this uncomfortable chair, we're just gonna follow you to your room and we're going to access you there." When I tell you that it was the best service that I have received in a really, really long time. Like I come to the ER often, but that was the best service that I had gotten in a long time. It was like everybody was so attentive and like catered to me. But of course, I know it was because it was nobody else there. It was like really quiet. But it was just amazing to be able to have that experience, once in my life. So the IV team followed me into the room. They accessed my port. She didn't have the orders yet. She went and looked for my nurse, asked my nurse where the orders were. Once they got my medication in, they left. My nurse came in, just did everything that she could to make me comfortable. So as time goes by, every state has different rules as far as like sickle cell patients in the emergency room. I know for the hospital that I go to in Durham, you get like three uh, IV medication, and then after that, if you're not feeling better, you go on the PCA pump. So I want to say like about my second one, the doctor comes in and the doctor says, "I have your results for your blood test." And I was like, "Oh, okay, great. Well, what's going on?" And she says, "Well, your hemoglobin is really low. It's a 5, and I would like to keep you." And anybody knows me knows that I absolutely hate the hospital. So the first thing that came to my mind is like, no, nope, I don't want to be kept. I want to go home. And plus, I hadn't prepared for it. Like I hadn't prepared my daughter to go anywhere. She was with her uncle. I hadn't, gotten her bags, everything ready. Like I like to be organized and prepared if I'm gonna do something like that. So I said, well, I kind of had a plan with my doctor to have a blood exchange on Monday, and I think I could wait till then. And she's like, "Well, I don't really feel comfortable letting you go. I think that you should stay." And she was saying that we can coordinate with your hematologist, and that shouldn't be an issue. And more so, she said that she didn't want me to leave and then just come right back. And I said, "Well, don't worry, I'm not going to do that. I'm not just going to leave and come right back a couple of hours from now." I said, "I'll try to manage through till Monday." So she said, "Okay, I'll let you go." So I go home. And once again, I was feeling better. You get a little pain medication, you start to feel better. And sometimes when your pain starts to feel better, it kind of masks everything else that you have going on. So I was like, "Oh, yeah, I can handle this." So I go home. And when I go home, I I started to feel worse. Like I felt really weak. I can't even like pick up my daughter. Like it was just so crazy. Like I felt absolutely weak. And my brother kept telling me, he's like, "You feel weak because your hemoglobin is low. You're out of breath because your hemoglobin is low. You're constantly being thirsty because your hemoglobin is low." So he's like, "You need to go back to the hospital." if they need to keep you, they need to keep you. You need to do what you have to do. So I told him, I said, no, I'm going to wait till Monday. I'm going to wait till Monday. So pretty much all day Sunday, I punished myself. Like I sat at home being miserable because I wanted to wait till Monday to go into the clinic to get the blood transfusion. So Monday morning, excuse me, maybe about, I want to say 3 in the morning, I just could not take it anymore. Like I was so weak, so tired, I couldn't sleep. I was in so much pain. So I told my brother, I said, I am going back to the clinic. So I started paging the hematologist on call. I didn't really get any response. And, my brother's like, just go to the emergency room, let them start the treatment there. And then when the clinic opens, then they can, kind of figure out where, you're going to go from there. So I said, all right, fine. So he took my baby and dropped my baby off at the babysitter, and he dropped me off at the emergency room. So when I got to the ER Monday morning, luckily it was quiet. I mean, it wasn't like Saturday morning, but it was quiet enough that I was like, oh, okay. I was able to go into my room right away again. So when I got into the room, now mind you, I'm really, really weak. Like I can barely talk. Like when I talk, I'm out of breath. Like I was just really weak. I was in a lot of pain. I didn't feel well. I didn't feel right. I knew deep down that something was wrong. So the nurse came in and she said, I have your orders. No, I'm sorry. Rewind. The doctor came in and asked me what was going on. And there's a hospital, there's a plan that you have on your Duke My chart, and you're supposed to show whenever you go into the hospital. The doctors have access to it as well, but they said sometimes you show it might make it a little easier or whatever. So I showed it to the doctor, and he said he looked at it and he said, okay. And then the nurse came in and she said, I have your medication and da 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 da. So when she came in with 2 milligrams of Dilaudid and Tylenol. So I said, okay, well, it's supposed to be 3 milligrams every 30 minutes based on, my order that I showed you. So she said, well, let me ask the doctor. But she said, in the meantime, I'm going to give you this 2 milligrams so that you're not just waiting. And I said, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's great. I agree. Thank you. So she gives me the 2 milligrams of my Tylenol. She leaves the room and she comes back. And, I asked her about it. She said, oh, he's still working on it, blah, blah, blah. I'll check with him again. And this time I started to feel nauseous. So I was like, well, while you're doing that, can you check on something for nausea as well? Because I don't know about anybody else, but anytime that I take pain medication or Dilaudid, it gives me really bad migraines. It makes me nauseated. Like it makes me feel better as far as pain, but it also has some other side effects and things that comes with it that I hate. So she goes, and literally I don't see her for probably another hour. And mind you, I'm supposed to get the 3 milligrams every 30 minutes, but I've only had 2 milligrams. And at this point, it's been an hour. So I'm pushing the button. She came in and she said, I'm still waiting for him to put the order in. So I told her, I said, well, at this point, forget about the 1 milligram. It's time for my next dose. And she's like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, let me get him to do it. So she goes, she comes back. She comes back with the 3 milligrams. So at this point, I'm starting to feel a little better, but my main concern was my hemoglobin being low. What's the plan for that? Like, what are we going to do? So she said, well, the doctor's supposed to come in and talk to you. So I had another doctor come in. He said he was the supervising doctor or something like that. So mind you, I could barely talk because every time that I spoke, it was like I was out of breath. So when he came in, he was like, "Yeah, I'm the supervising doctor." Da, 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 da. So I pulled up my plan again and tried to get him to read it. And I was like, this is what I'm supposed to show you. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. I can pull that up myself and read it." So I was like, "Okay." So he leaves, and literally, I didn't hear anything back from him. I didn't hear anything from any doctors or anything. And I want to say like an hour later, the nurse comes in and she's like, "Yeah, so we're going to hook you up to the PCA pump and then we're going to get your blood started." And I was like, "Okay, great. When are we going to, sorry guys, I'm nurse change. I'm going to stop and mute and everything for a second while I talk to this beautiful lady." All right, guys, sorry. I ain't want y'all all up in my business. I'm just kidding. But yeah, so she comes back and she says that, okay, we're gonna do a transfusion and we're gonna hook you up to the PCA pump. So I said, "Okay, well, how long is it gonna take for you to hook me up to the PCA pump? And, how long did you guys check with my hematologist to make sure that the transfusion was okay and, set up the exchange that me and my hematologist talked about or whatever?" So she said, "Well, as for the PCA pump, they haven't even put in the order, so I don't know." And she said the blood, we just have to wait for it. So, mind you, I am like already so weak and tired, like I could barely talk. I didn't want to have to deal with, I hate this. I didn't want to have to deal with, you know, like I just didn't want to have to deal with people. I just wanted to feel better. So, I told her, I said, I think it's really crazy because I keep trying to show you guys my plan, my orders on Duke My Chart, and everybody's so dismissive. I said I'm supposed to get the IV doses first before the PCA pump is connected. I said, I'm not even more so worried about that. My concern is that it's been like over an hour since my last medication. You started me off with 2 milligrams. Then the second dose was 3 milligrams. And that was like over an hour ago. And if you're going to start the PCA right now, then fine. At least I'm getting something. But you're saying that the doctor hasn't even put it in yet. You don't know how long it's going to take for me to get the PCA started. So, like, make it make sense. So she was like, oh, okay, well, let me go check with the doctor. So she goes and she comes back and she's like, well, we're going to give you this 3 milligrams for right now, and then we'll work on the PCA. He'll put the order in and all that other good stuff. So I was like, all right, great, whatever. Once again, I haven't seen a doctor other than the two that briefly came in and, didn't even really want to look at my orders or my plan. So I said, okay. So I'm quiet because once again, I'm just trying to save all the breath that I have. I'm just trying to make it through the visit because I absolutely hate the emergency room in the hospital. So, oh, let me go back. When the doctor came in, he was like, well, it looks like we're going to have to admit you. And I knew like once they put you on the PCA pump or if you're having to do a transfusion, they're going to have to admit you. So he told me, he said, looks like we're going to have to admit you. So I was like, okay. So then when the nurse came back with the PCA, she says, it looks like they're gonna get you started and then they're gonna send you to the day hospital. And I was like, day hospital? Like, but the doctor said they're gonna admit me. Once again, I was like, you know what? Okay, whatever. So then the doctor, a couple of hours later, I want to say an hour after I got the PCA, the initial doctor that I saw, he came in and he said, has the hematologist came to see you? And I was like, no. And he was like, well, they said they were coming to see you. I said, well, I haven't seen any hematologist. And I told him, I said, at this point, I just want to know what it is that's going on. Because if I'm not going to be kept, then I need to know. I've already called my job and told them, that I'm going to be kept. I've already made, I'm trying to make plans for my daughter. Like, I need to know so that I can plan accordingly. So he says, well, it looks like they're gonna keep you in the hospital. Looks like we're gonna admit you. So I said, okay, well, that's fine. I just need to know accurate information. So thank God, like, God always looks out for me. Like, yeah, I'm telling you, God always looks out for me. Literally, as soon as he left, the PA that I absolutely love in the hematology department, she comes to see me. And she was able to give me clarity finally. She said, oh, they're going to admit you because you're having to do the blood. She said, we're going to give you 2 units. She said, don't worry about the exchange. I've already cleared everything. She said, we're going to get you 2 units, to get you comfortable right now. She said, we're going to keep you. She asked me about my doctor's note for work. Like, she literally went through all the checklist of all my worries. And I was like, God, thank you so much. You are a lifesaver. And the whole time, that's why I kept paging and calling my regular, hematologist because they can always give me accurate information. Like, I don't like to be, oh no, we're gonna do this. No, 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 we change our mind, we're gonna do that. Like, I hate that. When you are in the hospital, you are already sick. So you don't want anything that's gonna stress you or have your heart rate racing back and forth. And that's what I felt like all day yesterday. It's like, dang, like I'm supposed to be feeling better, but I don't because I'm not getting the correct information. I'm nervous. I'm worried about my job. I'm worried about my child. I'm worried about everything else that I got going on. And all I really want is just for you guys to give me the right information. So, anywho, so she took care of that, and I was like, whew, all right, I can relax finally. So then I want to say 30 minutes later, the original ER doctor came in and he was asking me, he said, well, do you feel comfortable with going to being admitted, or can we put you in the observation unit? So I told him, I said, I think the observation unit is good. And if I really need to go into the hospital, I can do so. Like it's not a problem with me to go into the observation unit, because what they really wanted to know is that, are you going to be able to feel better in what I think is 12 to 17 hours you can stay in there? Are you going to be able to feel better in about 12 to 17 hours? But more so for me, it was like, more so for me, the issue wasn't like necessarily, it was pain, but it was just for me because of I had pain and other things. Yeah, my IV thing is going off. Thank you. So for me, it was not just the pain. It was like the fact that I was in pain and I felt really weak, fatigued, like I couldn't do anything for myself. So I told him, I said, yeah, I think 12, 17 hours should be good. So he said, all right, well, we'll just put you in the observation unit. We'll watch you. If you don't get any better, if the pain doesn't get any better, it's not controlled after you've been on the PCA for that long, then we'll go ahead and send you upstairs to a room and keep you. So I said, okay, that sounds fair. So with that being said, literally I asked the nurse started my first unit of blood, and I asked her if I could have, something to eat, lunch tray or whatever, because at that time my pain was feeling a little better, so I felt like I needed to put something in my stomach. So she brought me the tray, and literally as I was eating, transport, I think she's a nurse. So she comes in and she's like, "Oh, I know you're eating. I'm so sorry, but your room and observation unit." So I said, okay. So, she put all my stuff on the bed and I was still able to continue eating. So when we got to the observation unit, that's when it hit the fan. So the lady transporting me was nice. Like I really didn't have any issues with her, other than the fact that she was in a hurry, which is understandable. Like it's a COVID era, all the hospitals, all the nurses, all the doctors, they're all busy. Like they're all rushing. They have, so much patient that their workload is too much. And I get it. And that's why I try to be so nice and respectful when I come in, because I know that they're already dealing with so much. So when we get to the corner, like the desk where the nurses and stuff are, the lady that was transporting me asked the nurse and said, "Hey, where do you want her?" And she's like, "Oh, just put her in a clean room." And there was a lady like in the hallway cleaning. So the one transporting me asked her and said, well, which one's a clean room? And she's like, "Oh, 10 is clean. I just cleaned it." So the lady transporting me asked the nurse again and said, "Well, she's got a bunch of stuff hooked up to her bed. Like, what do you want me to do?" And she's like, just take the bed inside out and put her in there with a stretcher. So I was like, okay, well, I didn't say nothing because once again, it's busy. I didn't want to step on anybody's toe. Like I understand everybody's frustrated. So I didn't say anything. I rolled with it. So when we got into the room, I asked the lady, I said, well, isn't the lady transporting me? I said, isn't there a better way to kind of put me in a better bed? Like that's the whole point of the observation unit. It's kind of like you're in the hospital, you're still in the ER, but you having the comfort of the hospital. So the lady was like, "Yeah, but you've got all this stuff attached. The nurse has to come in and, detach it or whatever." So I was like, "Okay." That sounds good. So, I was like, I didn't argue. So I had to go to the restroom and look, literally the toilets are right there beside you. So it was my cords, everything was so tangled up because I was hooked onto the um what do they call it, the heart monitor, the oxygen. I had two different IVs, one for the pain medication, one for the blood. So it was like I had a lot going on and I had to pee really bad. So I literally had to push the stretcher out of the way by myself, tried my best to detangle. Like I almost peed on myself trying to detangle. So I got to the point where I was like, I can't do this. And I just pushed the bed closer to the bathroom just to go pee. So when the nurse came in, I was like, isn't there a better way that we could do this, that I can get to the bathroom? Like I literally just had to, mind you, I wasn't nasty. I was being very nice. I was like, isn't there a better way that we can do this so that I can get to the bathroom, to the toilet faster and I can get a more comfortable bed? So she's like, well, what did she say? Oh, well, there's nothing that I can do because the blood cords are really short. This is the best that we can do right now. There's nothing else that I can do. And I was like, okay, great. But can we at least detangle me? Well, we can't detangle right now. You're just gonna have to wait. I mean, you only need one more unit of blood, and you're leaving. You're gonna be discharged anyway. And I was like, well, even if I'm here for 5 minutes, I still have a right to be comfortable. So I guess my blow was done. So I don't know if she was angry with me, but I wasn't being rude. I was being like really nice. So she takes the attachment to the blood, she takes it off and literally blood splatter everywhere on the bed. Mind you, I was standing up because I was like feeling on ease that okay, you won't even detangle me and you're acting this aggressive, you might, flip me off the stretcher. So she disconnects the blood and it literally spatters everywhere. And I'm just sitting there to see how long it was going to take her to clean it up and everything. And literally nothing. Nothing. When I tell you she didn't do nothing, she just walks out. She takes the blood tube, walks out of the room, like put it in the little disposable thing, and just leaves. And I was sitting there like, okay. So I went and I sat on this chair, and she literally comes back and she comes back and she was like nothing. She was just checking stats and everything else. I guess like she was preparing me to stay, but then she told me I was about to leave anyway. So I sat on the chair and I asked her, I said, well, can you get the doctor to come and speak with me? Because I got my tone was like this the whole time because I got a different information stating that I was gonna stay overnight. And this lady was just so disrespectful that something just set me off. Like I just started to cry because I felt like I was being treated worse than an animal. Like I felt like she would have treated her dog better. Just to clarify, do you want one of your breakfast? Sure. Okay. Thank you. Like I felt like she would have treated her dog better than this. Mind you, there's still blood all over my bed that she hasn't done anything with. She just still left it there and I'm sitting in a chair. And by this time I got so emotional. Like I just started to cry. I just started to bawl. And I was just like, God, why me? Like I have been so nice and sweet. Like with everything that I've gone through since 7 a.m. this morning, I was still being nice and sweet. Like I was still being respectful. I wasn't being disrespectful to nobody. She leaves the room. She comes back. She sees me still upset. And she says, the doctor didn't come to speak to you yet? And I just got quiet. I didn't respond. I just left it alone. So I got so frustrated. I picked up my phone. I started to call patient advocate. I started to call anybody and everybody that I knew that was supposed to be an advocate that can help me. And then when she heard me talking to them or trying to reach out to patient advocate, then she started trying to, no, no, I take that back. She literally did not make my bed until one of the head of the ER people came in. That's when she changed my sheets. When I started to explain to patient advocate and the head of the ER person was coming, she literally started to change my sheets then. It had been like probably over an hour and it was like blood on it. And she's like, well, you can lay down. And I'm just like, you won't even have your dog lay on something so like, yeah, it's my blood, but I also don't want to lay in my blood. Actually, no, I take that back. It wasn't even my blood. It was a transfusion blood. I don't want to have to I don't want to have to lay in blood. I don't You already put me on an uncomfortable stretcher because you didn't want to take the time out to transfer everything into a pole. That's all you had. It was attached to the stretcher into a pole. And I could have had a better bed. But you didn't want to do that. And then you start to take it out on me even worse. You spill blood all over my bed and it was just crazy. So by this time it was like everybody in my room, the charge the patient advocate, the charge nurse, the doctor, when she came in, she was disrespectful too because she was like, well, what did she say? Well, if you want to be admitted, I can admit you. I said, I'm not, this is not what I'm talking about. Like you come off defensive. And it just made me think in my head, like I can only imagine what the nurse told her because it was like she came in not wanting to hear what I had to say at all. She came in automatically defensive and she hasn't even heard what was going on. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, the nurse probably got to your ear and did some lying or whatever the case is. I'll leave it alone. But yeah, it was so horrible for me because I started to like doubt myself, like, am I not human? Like, why am I being treated this way? And a lot of warriors or sickle cell patients don't like to go to the emergency room or the hospital just because of this. We continue to get treated like we're less than. We continue to get treated like, you know, our pain doesn't matter. Our voice doesn't matter. We're lying about it. We we have nothing to complain about. We're not in pain. We're not going through these things. We're not going through these changes. We're just pretending just to come sit in here. Who wants to come sit in the hospital for fun? Who wants to do that? Nobody. Not even the people that work here. Doctors and nurses, do y'all want to ever come into the hospital and stay here just for fun? Do you ever come in and say, give me a bed? I need a vacation. No, nobody wants to do that. So, oh my God, I was so depressed yesterday. It made me feel so bad. Like I was just bawling, crying. If you guys would have seen my face, I took pictures of the bed and the blood on the floor and everything. And she didn't even care. She didn't even bother to clean it up. She didn't bother to clean up until patient advocate came in. So when he came in, he was like, well, what is it that I can do for you? I said, I want a different nurse. He said, well, I can't promise that, but I can go talk to the charge nurse and see what they can do. Well, I ended up with another nurse. And boy, when I tell you, it was a big difference. It was a big difference. The other nurse that they brought to me, she was nice. She was courteous. And I could tell that this is her normal self. I could tell that she wasn't trying to do this because I had complained to patient advocate. I could tell that this is normally what she does, is be a good person. And I didn't understand what the woman's issue is. And I don't want to make it a race thing, but I swear that's how it kind of feels like, dang, because I'm a black woman, you feel like I deserve to be treated worse than a dog. You feel like I should just lay in the bed. with like, you know what I mean? Nothing. Like you feel like I should just be grateful for what I'm given. And then you tell me, you said, oh, well, you're only going to be here for one more unit of blood. Once you get that one unit of blood, then you're going home anyway. Regardless of if I'm going to be here for 5 minutes or 2 seconds, I still deserve to be treated like a human being. I deserve to be treated like a human being. Oh, no, thank you. It's fine right there. Thank you so much. Thank you, darling. Breakfast is served. I still prefer to be treated like a human being. Like don't treat me like I'm just less than. I don't even know what you have that makes you more important than me. I don't understand it. And here's my thing about nurses. A lot of people work in the medical field for the money. People don't do it for their passion anymore. A lot of people just do it for the money. And it's like if you're doing it just for the money, you're going to burn yourself out before you burn anybody else out. Because look at that now. You've got this negative, situation on your record. You've got this patient that has said, I never want her to ever touch me as a patient ever again in life. And I wasn't ugly. When I first met you, when you first came in, I was very quiet. Even the things that you did in the beginning that I knew was wrong, I didn't say anything about it. I was quiet. I was quiet. I let you be because I'm like, okay, I understand the frustration. Like it's so much going on with COVID and the nurses are overworked and underpaid and there's so much going on that I didn't make a big deal out of it. But then when you started to get an attitude with me, that's where I had the issue. I'm here trying to feel better. I don't want to have to feel worse. Let me tell y'all, last night my pain had increased back again. I was short of breath. The stress that I went through with just this one nurse caused me to start all over again. Caused everything to start all over again. All the feeling better that I was feeling, everything that I had going on that I'm like, ooh, I might get to go home today. Da, 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 da. Started all over. She brought me backwards. So, I just wanted to share my story time. Like I said, not just to help warriors, but to help healthcare workers. Like, we understand that you are going through so much right now. We are very appreciative of your service. If anything, I'm the biggest advocate for you guys. I feel like your student loans should be wiped off. I feel like you guys need to get way more rewards than you're getting. CNAs and nurses and doctors, like you guys are the real MVPs. But if it's going to be too much for you, where you're going to be treating innocent patients badly, then just change your career. Just find something else to do. I'm sorry to say, because not only are you burning the patients out, you're burning yourself out as well. You're messing with the patients mentally, but you're also messing with yourself mentally. You go home burned out because you're just yelling at everybody. You don't want to deal with people, and oh, why is she even here? Da, 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 da. So change your career. Change it till COVID is over. Change it until things are back to normal and it's quiet. So I just wanted to share my story time. Hopefully, I will get to go home today. I am feeling a little better. Um, I'm waiting for my lab to see my hemoglobin if it's gone up or what they're gonna do. But I'm hoping to go home today. If I don't, that's okay. I'll wait for as long as I need to, because I never want to feel like I did this past week again. Like I literally, if I had to walk for like a couple of steps, I'm out of breath. I'm breathing heavy. If I'm talking on the phone, which my job is mostly talking, I'm out of breath. I'm feeling uneasy. I'm in a lot of pain. So I really just want to feel better. I want to feel 100. I want to get back to myself. I want to be able to play with my daughter. I want to be able to go back to work, fully me. I want to be able to go back to my normal life. So that is why I don't mind if I need to be hospitalized, fine. But sometimes situations like this happen that totally discourage me from the hospital. I hear so many sickle cell patients saying, I'd rather die at home than have to deal with these people. And it shouldn't have to be like that because a medical facility is there to help us. That's what they're there for. They're here to help us, to support us, to help us to feel better. And if people have to start feeling like I'd rather be at home and die or deal with it or overdose or whatever before I can seek help, then there's a problem. There's a disconnect somewhere. And I hope we get it resolved. So I just wanted to come on here and share my story time. There's a video that I want to do later, but it will be way later after I feel completely, completely, completely better. But it's a conversation that I want to have with the sickle cell community, and I'll do it once I feel 100% better. But thank you to people that did take their time to listen to me this morning. I hope I was able to help someone. I love to share my stories. I am still not broken. They did try to break me last night. Cry. Oh my God, I cried, bawled my eyes out. Like I think that was the worst depression or whatever that I've been through in a really, really long time. But I made it through. I solved it myself. I advocated for myself. I called whoever it is that I needed to talk to. And I am here feeling better. And I'm hoping my labs will be good and I will be able to go home. So thank you all. I hope you all have a fabulous week. Keep me in your prayers that I get completely better and I get out of here. I did have my COVID testing done yesterday and I have no COVID. So thank you, Lord. So continue to keep me in your prayers that I feel better. But thank you guys. Love you all. Have a blessed week. And we will continue to pray for each other. Thank you.